Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, The Civil Pro. Today we will be discussing about flexible and rigid pavement. So, what is a pavement? Let's discuss about what is a pavement. So, pavement is a hard surface. Pavement is usually made of some durable material. Its main function is to distribute the load to subgrade material. Subgrade material is usually soil. So, why we need to provide a pavement? Why don't we move on a soil, move vehicles on soil or subgrade or make some extra treatment on it so vehicle could move on it. So why we don't do this? Why we are going for the expensive materials and expensive techniques and expensive construction in order to make payments? So the basic answer lies behind the strength of the subgrade. So we provide a payment in order to separate the subgrade material, which is which is usually soil. We provide a payment to separate the soil from the traffic load or traffic in order to distribute the load, so it may not exceed the bearing capacity of the soil. So the basic and main goal of the payment is to distribute the vehicular load so that it may not exceed the bearing capacity of the soil. So let's have a look on the first figure. As we can see, let us say that a vehicular load of 18,000 pound is lying on a subsoil or subgrade material. So it may be lie on its bearing capacity. So it may capable of it may capable of bear the all load, or it may not be. So if it is may not be able to bear the load, so it will crack or it will go under the settlement. So it is a failure. So we have so in order to transfer or distribute the load, we generally provide layers. Like in this figure, you can see we generally provide three, four layers so that the load can be distributed along each layer, and the minimum load can be transferred to the subgrade or a subsoil material in order to prevent it from failure. So what are different types of the payment? There are two basic and type of the payment, which are the flexible payment and the rigid payment. So what is a flexible payment? Flexible payment is a type of payment in which we use bitumen as a binder material. So we use bitumen in order to stick or bind the aggregates together in order to make a strong, hard surface on which the vehicles can move. So bituminous material has a property of elasticity. It is such a property that when some load or some traffic move on the surface, so it will deform in a shape, a certain shape up to the elastic limit, and it regain its shape when the load is removed. So it has a property to change its shape up to some extent, which is the elastic limit under the load, and when the load is removed, it regains its original shape. So this type of a payments generally have a less flexural strength than the rigid payment. So that's why these type of payments have the two or three layers in order to distribute the load over the subgrade or a subsoil material in order to prevent it from failing. So we can see in this figure there are three layers. Generally there are four or five layers. It depends upon the condition of the subgrade that how many layers should we provide. So which is described by structural number, which will be discussed later. Now we can see in this figure that there are three layers. Uh, the topmost layer is the surface course, which is made up of aggregates and bituminous materials in order to make a strong and durable surface on which the vehicles can move. The second layer is the base course, and the third layer is the subbase. After subbase, the layer comes which is known as a subgrade or a soil. So the flexible payment is the most common payments that we can see in our surroundings. So this is the example of the flexible payment. Let's move towards a rigid payment. The rigid payment is a type of payment in which a cement is used as a binder. Ordinary Portland cement can be used It is a type of pavement which has a good flexural strength. So that's why we generally don't provide it in layers. It contains only one layer between the subgrade and the vehicular load. It transfers the load to the subgrade as a slab action. As we can say that this type of pavements have a good flexural strength. So these type of a pavement takes the load from the vehicle and distribute it uniformly along the subgrade and provide a larger area so that the subgrade material should not fail. So we can see in this figure that the load is being transferred by uh, slab action to the base and the subgrade. So we generally provide one layer, but it may depend upon the conditions of a soil that we have to provide the base material or we shouldn't provide the base material. But it depends upon the subgrade properties. In certain areas, the subgrade is quite capable of carrying the loads, so we don't require to um, place the base materials, and we generally provide rigid pavements like one layer, so it depends upon the properties of the subgrade material again. So in this figure, we can see the subgrade material, oh sorry, the rigid pavement can be provided on the directly on the subgrade material in the form of the blocks. As we can see, here is the longitudinal joints. So these joints help to transfer the load between the two different blocks, and these joints are connected with the dowel-like bars, which is known as the joints, as we can see in this figure. So we have discussed today the rigid and flexible pavement and the basics of rigid and flexible pavement.